My name is Jeanne Perrett, and I'm the author of Brilliant. And I'm going to be talking to you today about teaching the 4 skills of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Okay, so developing our skills, our main 4 skills with Brilliant. All right, so first of all, we've got some brilliant ideas for reading. Okay. First of all, what are the main issues when we start to teach our young learners to read? First of all, it's a totally different alphabet. So we understand that this already is a huge obstacle for our little children. And when they come to us as young learners, the children are still learning to read their own language. So, of course, they're not completely fluent readers in their own language to start with, and then we're asking them to learn to read another language with another alphabet. So we do have our work cut out for us. The third thing is that English is not a straightforward language to learn to read. I always think that actually basic English grammar, people think that the grammar is difficult, but I think compared to a lot of other languages that our English grammar is fairly straightforward. You don't have to decline everything. You know, the word red as an adjective can go with any noun. You don't have to make the word red match the word ball or book or bike. It's always just stays the same. In many ways, our English grammar is quite simple, but learning to read English is not very straightforward. The fourth point is that teaching children to read English is only part of our job. As we know, we have 100 other things to do in the classroom every day. Apart from teaching them the 4 skills, there's all the other things that we do as teachers when we have these children in our care. As we very well know, we become like substitute parents for the time that we have those children in our classroom. And then the last and most important point maybe is that we haven't actually been properly trained to teach reading as a skill. We do know a lot about it, but it hasn't been the main focus of our own personal education to teach other people how to to learn how to read. So we're doing our best under these very difficult circumstances. So I do think that we need to devise a reading program for our students, and I know that you do that actually in Russia. I've observed a lot of classes in Russia, and I know that you do have quite a systematic approach to learning to read. And I think that this is what we have to do. So we have to start off with, I think, with letter and sound recognition. And then maybe at the same time, you're also going to be doing whole word recognition and comprehension. Because if we just stay focused on the letter A, and what is the letter A? There's a limited amount of vocabulary that you can use to demonstrate how that sound works in a word. And it will become frustrating for the children if we only focus on the letter and the sound recognition. So the letter and the sound recognition can become a game, etc. We have chants, we have songs, etc. that will help us to do this, to recognize these letters. But I think it's very important that we also do the more of the look and say method as well. In other words, the whole word recognition, because this starts to bring the language to life for the children and makes it more interesting for them. And as we know, we have to gain their interest in order to keep them motivated and wanting to continue to learn English. This is right at the beginning. We don't want to bore them at the beginning just with the alphabet. So letter and sound recognition, whole word recognition, and comprehension. What does that word mean? And of course, that's all our vocabulary teaching, which we know how to do. And then learning to sing the alphabet. And I think it is very important that we do learn to sing it rather than just to say it, because it's very difficult to learn a whole alphabet if you don't put it to a tune. And of course, in our books, in Brilliant, we do have a lovely alphabet song that you can use to help the children to learn to sing the alphabet. And then, of course, once we know the order of the alphabet and we've gone through all these letters, then we learn to use those actual letters of the alphabet in spelling games, in all sorts of different games. I'm going to show you some different games that we can do. And then absolutely the last thing really here at this initial stage we're talking about is learning to say the alphabet. Learning to actually say the alphabet is almost a useless skill, actually. If you think about it, we very, very rarely ever need to say the alphabet. You never have a conversation with somebody which requires you to say the whole alphabet in order. It's only a classroom activity. We never really say the alphabet. When we do say the alphabet, we say it to ourselves in our head. For instance, when we're flicking through a dictionary and we want to remind ourselves where a letter comes in the order, then we'll be saying A, B, C, D. Oh, H. Where is it? But we'll very rarely learn to say the alphabet. So yes, we do need to know the names of the letters, but we don't necessarily, it's not a very important skill to be able to say the alphabet. And I'm mentioning this because I think it's important. I know that you know this, but I think it's important that you make this point clear to the parents of our children, because they sometimes think that being able to sing the alphabet is not an important skill, and that if they can't say it, they haven't achieved anything. So I think we can point out to the parents of our children who sometimes make our lives challenging, let's say, that it isn't an important skill to learn to say it, but we do need to know the names of the letters. We need to be able to spell things out. That's the important skill. How do you spell your name when you're writing out a form? Jeanne. That's how I spell my name. I need to know those letters, but I don't need to know the alphabet in order. All right, so first of all, they've got to learn to listen to you. And that is very important. They do listen, and we must have creative learning environments, yes, but the children must also learn not to be disruptive. And it's very important that you get this atmosphere in the classroom where they want to listen to you. And I think it's very true that the children who listen to you and look at you, those children who are actually properly looking at their teachers, those are the ones that are really learning. And I'm sure that you would agree with me. I know that you, with all your years of experience in the classroom, all of you, you know that those children that are actually properly making eye contact with you, they're the ones who are going to learn much more quickly than the one who's sort of like half under the desk or looking at the friend or whatever. So somehow, gradually, we've got to let them realize that them being quiet and focusing and listening to teacher is a good thing to do. And then, of course, they've got to listen to each other. So, speaking and reading, and that they've got to listen to each other, speaking, listen to each other, reading. And it is a problem sometimes when it's a very big class, if you want them all to listen to each other. So what you've got to be doing is, if it's too dull for them to keep listening to each other within the classroom, say you've got 40 children, you've got to have other simple activities that those children be getting onto so that you can sit and listen to another child read. You need to have one-to-one time with the children as well as big classroom time. So if you're going to have this one-to-one time as well, you need the other children to have simple activities that they know what they're doing, worksheets, workbook, activity book, that they can get on with so that you don't get this disrupted class. You need to have this calm time in the class as well. And of course, listening to songs, the more they listen to them, the better they will learn them. Again, so the children don't get bored with repetition. Generally, we like to hear the things that we like to hear. As we know, we like to hear the same stories. We don't want our stories to keep changing. If we like a story, we want that story as it was. Okay. Okay. So you've got to play the song, and you can also play the song softly while they're working on activities which don't need full mental concentration. So there's a time for silence, but there's also a time for things to be very, very just if you're just doing a simple activity, you can have songs playing in the background. Okay. And listening to stories. It is lovely, relaxing, and it's pleasant for children to listen to stories read by you. But don't always set tasks connected with the stories. It's nice just to have a story time, and don't ask them, what does this word mean? What does that word mean? If you're showing stories with pictures, gradually it will all go in. Basically, what we want to do is get this English onto their hard disk in some way, so that it becomes a part of how they are. This is if we're serious about them learning English. And one of the ways you can do this is through listening to stories and just making it a pleasant activity. And then, of course, listening to textbook cassettes. Well, I don't know how many people have cassettes now and CDs. And this is where a textbook really can be vital, because it's difficult to provide those proper listening tasks by yourself. Obviously, you can be speaking to them, but the actual listening tasks that are within the book, they've all been properly thought out and acted out. And so that's a part of your lesson. Ideas for singing, okay. Part of speaking and part of listening as well. So learning language through songs is not an extra activity. It's one of the most important ways in which we gain fluency, and it's one of the most important ways in which we remember structures and vocabulary. And again, I know that you know this, but again, it's important to tell the parents of our children who don't always know this, that if you spent a lesson learning songs and singing songs, it hasn't just been playing games or a waste of time. It's been a very important way of the children acquiring fluency. Okay. And don't forget that when we're doing our songs, get the children to stand up when they're singing, because most singers do stand up when they sing. Okay. And of course, you can add to this, you can have little cardboard microphones, there's be fun props, etc. You can even encourage them to perform as if they're a famous singer. So they can sing their songs that are in their textbooks, but they can do it in a way as if they're performing. Teaching the words of a song by playing the song again and again until they're ready to join in. Like I said, we just do it again and again and again, and when they've got the hang of it, turn off the player and then go over the words slowly. Okay. And then when they're entirely familiar with the song, add some simple movements, okay? So you can just have a few little dance steps as well, a couple of dance steps to go with your songs. When they're singing, it's very powerful if you're listening to them, and as they're singing, just say, oh, that's good. Oh, you're great singers. How good. As they're singing. And I guarantee that as they're singing, they start to sing better because you're praising them as they do, okay? Some children, and some teachers don't join in because they say, oh, I can't sing. But if you say to that, I can't sing, what you mean is I can't sing well. Well, it doesn't matter. It's not a singing contest. It's just a lesson, So just sing badly, and you can tell them how good they are, and their confidence builds and they blossom. And that's more or less it from me. This is the end. I don't know if we can hear there's a lovely song that's in Brilliant. I haven't got it here on this at the moment, but this is a lovely song, and it sums up how our children think of themselves, how we want them to think of ourselves. I can fly, I can fly, I can fly very high in the sky.